Hey everyone, welcome to our webinar. My name is Stephen. I'm here with my colleagues and co-hosts Andrew and Ravon. Today we're going to be covering the Paycheck Protection Program for small businesses and helping coronavirus relief funds. So our presentation is going to be broken down into several parts. First of all, I'm going to go over what is the Paycheck Protection Program. Then I'm going to have Andrew go over the qualifications for the program, and then Ravon is going to go over what happens if you get approved, the next steps for securing your loan, and then finally Andrew's going to end the presentation with any extra additional information that is need be. So first of all, for the Paycheck Protection Program, it is a program designed by the government to help small businesses keep their workers on the payroll. The SBA will forgive any loans if all the employees for a small business is kept on the payroll for up to 8 weeks. All the information in our presentation is taken from the SBA.gov website, which can be found at this link here below. Also, it's the first link on Google if you just type in the Paycheck Protection Program. Some general information about the loan. The average loan size for any small business is $114,000. That is just the average. So obviously, you can get a loan much higher than this or a loan lower than this, depending on your current situation. They've approved over $510 billion so far, and they've had $4 million approved loans so far. So next, I'm going to pass it over to Andrew to go over the qualifications for each loan.
Yeah, okay, so we know that like a couple $100,000 the average, that can be like life-saving. Like that can be really helpful during this time, especially when businesses aren't as active as they were before. So how do you qualify for this loan, the PPP loan? There's two different ways. First of all, have fewer than 500 employees whose principal place of residence is in the U.S. Right? So like if you have a small number of employees, then you can definitely qualify for this. And then also, you can also be a small business under the NAICS code, given by the SBA. And then, so for example, if your business is NAICS code begins with 72, then you know that you do definitely qualify. And like 72, for just an example, 72 is restaurants and accommodations for like housing, stuff like that. So there's also a lot of smaller details that would be really helpful. Like depending on there's little details that may decide whether you do qualify or don't qualify, and then there's things like that that can depend on whether you get it or not. So these things all can be found in the link that I have below on the SBA.gov website.
So Ravon's going to cover the time it takes to receive a loan, and then what's the next steps for any business that does receive their loan or refund from the government.
Yes, when it comes to how does it take before receiving the refund, some business gets the approval after a few hours from submitting the application. Others might take a couple of weeks. It depends on the lender, their ability to process and accept your application, and the SBA's speed to provide final loan approval. One thing is the program requires that they receive the money within 10 days. However, as per what Amy Kassar said, that while some approved small business owners have gotten the cash in 2 or 3 days, others waited up to weeks to get the loan. So unfortunately, there is a lot of gray areas. However, they still align with the banks to set clear rules and make our questions answered. And when it comes to the next steps, there are 4 steps you need to follow here. Number 1, you need to use at least 25% of the loan for payroll expenses only in the next 56 days from receiving your approval. You can pay your employees at current salary levels, rehire any employees that laid off due to COVID-19, pay them the same amount they were earning during the weeks bearer. If you pay yourself, that amount must be limited to 8 weeks worth of the amount you made in 2019. And one more thing, if you use less than 75% of your funds for qualified payroll expenses, you will have to pay back the difference at 1% of interest rate. Second step you need to follow is you can use the rest of 25% to cover expenses, such as payments of interest on loan obligation, utility payments. But once again, these expenses should be incurred before 15th of February 2020. Step 3. Keep detailed records. You need to have a good accountant, as he will be your ticket to prove that you have used your loan in a manner that qualifies for forgiveness. The last step here that you need to follow your specific lender's guidelines. You need to make sure that you are on the same page with your lender. After all, lenders are a group of banks, and each and every bank has a set of terms and conditions. And that's it.
So, Ron, what happens if the loan isn't approved for these businesses? Is there any next steps?
Mhm. Yes, the good news is that Paycheck Protection Program loan forgiveness is not all or nothing. So they will need to check your application and then fit you to the criteria forgiven. So you will find that part of your loan is forgiven, means it's all yours, and the other part you need to pay back with an interest of 1%. And speaking about the part that you need to pay, it's a deferred payment for 6 months. Like for an example, I will try to simplify it here, that you receive your loan in June. So you have 6 months without any obligation. And then it started from December of the same year, you have to pay the not forgiven amount within 2 years.
So I think we won't cover this in the next steps if your loan does get approved, but it is very important that you have your records kept for your business, because these are things that the government is going to ask for. So you do need your bank account statements, your tax forms, your payment receipts of employee health insurance and retirement plans, documentation of full-time employees, and non-payroll expenses documentation, such as mortgage payments, rent, lease payments, and utilities. I know that a lot of small businesses are not always keeping track of all the documents and all their financial records and such. So you must keep in mind that these are things that are going to be asked of you, and that you need to have ready if you want to go forward. So then lastly, Andrew's going to cover some further general information about this program that may be useful.
Yeah. So as Rawan just talked about, in order to qualify for the full forgiveness and like not to pay any interest, you have to keep all workers, keep all the workers, and then and also keep up their pay. So not reduce their pay and not fire anybody. And however, like even if this is not enough, like your business is still struggling and it's just not enough to pay off all the expenses for the month, it's still possible to reduce worker hours, and like that's still allowed, and you still be able to have the full loan forgiven. Yeah. However, like I'm sure a lot of us have seen the news with the CARES Act. Like a lot of employees are actually making more on unemployment while then being employed. Generally, lower wage workers. Like so, then you might be thinking like well, why would they want to take a job again if they're making more on unemployment? However, like this only applies for some states. If you're on a list of eligible states above, there's 26 states and Washington D.C. They have work sharing programs, and so what this does is allows with businesses to reduce worker hours, and it's at the same time these employees who were formerly on unemployment continue getting unemployment benefits. So they reduce their benefits by whatever percent that the worker hours are reduced by. So like this allows them to make more money, but also like allows the small businesses to cut like the number of hours that they work in order to save money for the month. Yeah. So like, what about the future of PPP? We know that yesterday actually, the House of Representatives just passed a bill that loosened requirements for the PPP in order to get the loan forgiven and to qualify for it. So one thing that they did was it reduced the level of funds that must be used for payroll from 75 currently is down to 60%. So you only have to use 60% of the funds for payroll, and then it also increases the time to use the loan from 8 weeks to 24 weeks. So that's a huge increase in leeway that you can space out your payments, like the way you use the loan. So then, and lastly, it extends the deadline to rehire workers to December 31st. So yeah, you can see these things are actually really big changes that could definitely make it this bill a lot more helpful for a lot more people. And then, so this just passed the House, but we're still awaiting Senate and presidential approval. And then, then we can see. So, I guess it's a good idea to keep tabs on what the PPP is doing in government right now. Yeah, and that's all we have for today.
Yeah, I think that's all good information. Obviously, the PPP is not the only loan program that the government is offering during these struggling times for businesses, as there are a lot of other loans that they are offering that we may cover in future webinars. All the information, as I said, through our PowerPoint slides and such, are on the SBA.gov website. If you just search up the Paycheck Protection Program, it was probably the first link on Google, which offers all this information plus much more. And they ask, I believe they have a frequently asked questions page to get any information that you may need. So I hope all this information helps anyone that is tuning in, and thank you so much for watching.